Welcome, everyone, to another episode of GTF Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia, and I just want one programming reminder. Tonight, it's Bears Country Podcast at 7 p.m. Join Dan Scoratino and his cohort, Nomad. They'll be talking about yesterday's game and looking forward to the offseason. Now, let me bring in my man, Greg Gabriel. Greg, how are you, brother?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Doing good. You know, I was really disappointed with yesterday's game because that game was there for the taking, just like so many of the Bears' losses. And it would have been sweet to have that one on the mantle, to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, a team who has played exemplary all season. But it wasn't meant to be. What was your evaluation of overall the game?
It's the same frustration we've had probably a half a dozen times this year, where you're close, but you can't get over the hump for whatever reason. And a lot of times it falls on the Bears. You know, a penalty, a fumble, could be a missed call by an official. That wasn't the case yesterday, but that's been the case in some other games where it's just a couple plays that have made the difference in this game or in these games where, you know, multiply it. But the one thing I like, and you know me, I'm always talking positive. I don't like dealing with negatives. is that, okay, yesterday and Saturday, they played the best team in the NFC and the best team in the AFC. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get an idea where this team's at. And the Bears are playing right now, there's about 45 cards in that deck. I mean, they got so many damn injuries, and yet they still held their own. And nobody at wide receiver yesterday.
Right.
EQ gets hurt on that crossing route, and he got hit in the head. You could see it. It's actually the other guy came in late kind of and whacked him in the head. And not that I thought that it was a penalty or anything, but that's what caused the concussion or put him in protocol. So it remains to be seen whether he can play this week against Buffalo. And I'll tell you, when you look at the forecast, it's only going to be about 6 degrees.
Wow.
Saturday again. Who knows what the hell the wind chill factor is going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be a chilly one, that's for sure. Listen, you know, we're not ones to whine here, right? But there does seem to be, the officials just seem to be what's the word? They don't call these headshots to Justin Fields. I posted a video yesterday, and Ndamukong Suh, who has a reputation for headhunting and playing dirty in this league, Fields clearly slides. His butt is on the ground. He showed that he was sliding, and as Suh is running by, he hits him with force on the head and no call. Now the Bears always send these tapes into the NFL, and
and then the league says, "Yeah, we should have called the penalty."
Exactly.
Sorry.
What's going on, Greg? What can we do?
You can't do a thing except it's just you make a point of emphasis to the officials, like next Sunday, hey, you got to watch for this. Our guy, you know, and the officials do that too. But you know, I think they look at it like he's a running quarterback, and he's going to take his lumps because of the way, or as much as he runs the ball and as good as he runs the ball. But you know what? When you're going in for the slide, I don't care if you're a good runner or a poor runner, you're still sliding.
That's the thing that is irritating. And some people who have presented the case for referees, saying these guys who are really, really fast sometimes don't get the flags because it happens so fast for the officials that they are reluctant to throw the pass because it just didn't register in time. And so I can almost buy that. But at the same time, on a play like yesterday, when you've got a notorious defensive player who has a record of cheap hits, that should have been called, man.
Well, I think a better word's even a history.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a history over a long period of time of doing this, you know, regardless. It's all different types of situations and different games with different teams that he's played on. But he you know, there's a time when I think there were people calling for a suspension of him. You know, and it's too bad because you get away from the game. The guy's really a nice guy. I've met the guy before. And it's just that, you know, he's a holy terror when he's on the field.
Yeah, sometimes guys who are just really nice people, but in the heat of battle, all of a sudden it switches on the evil spirit within them. And they want, they're so competitive that they're going to do a dirty play. You know what? It reminds me of when I used to play basketball. I used to foul everybody who would come near the lane. And I didn't want to hurt them, but I ended up hurting a few people. But that's a different story for a different day. One of the reasons I love doing our show at this time on Mondays is because we get the latest thoughts from Bears head coach Matt Eberflus, and he had his press conference, which ended about an hour ago. Velus Jones had another turnover yesterday, and this is what Eberflus said about Velus.
Yeah, I would just say, like anybody that goes through adversity, just be encouraging, to encourage them, teach, fundamentally teach, know what we need to do during that moment, with the clasp hand and having 5 points of pressure, as I stated yesterday. And that's really it, and then just drill it and drill it and drill it. And, he had the ball in the correct arm. Reddick ended up hitting his shoulder pad to his elbow, and the ball came out. So that means he didn't have 5 points of pressure on there. So we got to do a good job of that.
So this is not a thing where you would decrease his playing time or anything like that. It's teach him and then throw him right back out there, or do you have to?
Yeah, that's a discussion we have to have. A discussion we have to have as a group. And we'll look at it during the course of the week, and we'll make our decision as we go.
Now, yesterday he was much more emphatic with his.
Oh, yesterday was a little PO'd. And in fact, yesterday it sounded as if he might not see the field again, but hey, they got guys down. And, Claypool, you don't know if he's going to be back this week. You don't know if Harry's going to be back. He's got a back issue, whatever that is. And so, somebody's got to line up and play. And he's a third-round pick who is, arguably the fastest guy they got. It's too early. Disappointing, yes, but way too early to give up on him. Mm-hmm. What he needs to do is he needs to make a couple of plays. Mm-hmm. You make some plays, he develops some confidence, and they'll go from there. But if this continues into next year, mm-hmm. regardless if he's a third-round pick, he's not going to be around.
That's exactly my thought on that situation, Greg. He's 25 years old.
The age doesn't mean anything. But, I don't care if he's 21.
Yeah,
it's you're being drafted to make plays. You're pro, and if you can't make the plays and you keep making the same mistake, then it's time to send you on down the road.
Yeah, and the only reason I bring up his age, Greg, is because at a certain point, if you're going to keep this guy on the roster on the practice squad when he's 26 years old next year, and in practice he's still showing trends, or whenever he gets an opportunity, he's still showing trends of not getting it, then at a certain point, are you going to keep the 21-year-old that was a fourth-round pick next season, or a fifth-round pick, or an undrafted free agent who's shown promise?
Here's the thing. I think in practice he's pretty damn good. And then it doesn't carry over into the games.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mr. Shorty, my buddy says, where are the design quick plays for Velus, Greg? Get the ball in his hands on a slant and let him get those yards after catch. And I think they've tried these bubble screens a couple of times with him.
They tried a bubble early on yesterday. It might have been the second play of the game or something. It was in that first series, and might have been the first play. Mm-hmm. And they picked up about 4 or 5 yards on it. Mm-hmm. In fact, it was the same series, because then EQ got on third down. EQ got the first down, but got hit in the head. Yeah.
Robert says this season is over, so leave Velus in there and let him try and improve. He was in for 40 snaps last game. Give him another 30, 40 snaps. What do you think about what Robert says?
They got no choice. Mm-hmm. Who else are you going to play?
Yeah. Well, Eberflus did mention that N'Keal Harry and Chase Claypool are trending the right way towards hopefully playing on Sunday. I wasn't aware that Harry had some lingering issues with his injury.
Well, yeah, obviously he had something wrong with his back. That was what the issue was. Somebody had it on Twitter yesterday. They held him out of the game because of a back. I thought at first when I saw he was inactive that, maybe he had a lousy week of practice or whatever. And then somebody clarified that his back was tightening up or something. And in the cold, that's just, it just sets himself up for failure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's disappointing that we're not seeing more of Harry. Hopefully he'll be fine. And hopefully the Bears offense has 50, 60 snaps a game so we can get some of these guys playing time and they can do something. Eberflus was asked about Justin Fields' progression. How is he improving in terms of getting off one receiver to another, which is a topic I want to discuss with you. Let's listen to Coach Eberflus first.
Yesterday, obviously, with that good defensive line they had, he didn't have a lot of time when we were, dropping back. They did a really good job, like you guys said, with stunts, and that was, something that we obviously noticed during the game. But when he does have time, I think he does a really good job of progressing through his reads and delivering the ball on time. It's like the first one, that first third down we made, the St. Brown, when St. Brown got hurt. That was an excellent pass and an excellent timing, and I thought rhythm was really good.
Greg, I take minor exception with what he said there because there were a couple of plays that I saw yesterday where I wish Justin would have just gotten rid of the ball to an open receiver underneath, and instead there was a sack. Do you still see – I mean, I see progression. There's no doubt about it. He's much better than he was the first 3-4 games of the season. So he is getting better at that, but there's still room for growth there, isn't there?
There's always room for growth, and the growth comes with experience. But in saying that, I didn't see anything yesterday where I'm thinking, oh, he's holding on to the damn ball, get rid of the ball, don't take the sack. I mean, the Philadelphia pass rush was ferocious. I mean, right off the bat, they got the top defensive line in the league, got the most sacks in the league. And it's not from one guy or two guys, it's everybody. Across the board, even some of the backups, they got a high number of sacks. They come after, they line up wide, so it makes it a problem for the tackles. Hargrave was their 3 technique is a bitch. He had 2 sacks, and he's really good when he does those loop stunts. And he's a free agent, so I mean he's a guy the Bears could be looking at. The only problem, he's going to be 30 next year. And he's also probably going to look at $20 million or better because he's going to have an all-pro year. He's having an all-pro year this year. So, but
I'm sorry, I played something accidentally. Please go ahead.
No, he's really a good player. I mean, they've got a number of guys. Hey, Quinn doesn't even play. They gave up a third-round pick for Quinn. He doesn't even play.
He's on IR. He's done for the season. Robert Quinn. Yeah. So I think it was an ankle or a knee or something. So he's done for the season. He'll be looking for a job during the offseason. So
he had his contract reworked so that he becomes a free agent at the end of the season, but he wasn't playing when he got there.
Right.
He was only playing 6 or 7. I mean, I don't know why. Howie gave up. Howie usually does a great job and wins most trades. And he lost on that one. I mean, he gave up a 3 and got nothing out of it.
Yeah. Robert is reporting that he's heard a report that the Quinn might be back for the Eagles playoffs.
Well, he can come back after 4 weeks.
Yeah. All right. So I did post a play on Twitter yesterday regarding Justin Fields where I thought, maybe the sack was on Justin Fields and I wanted people to react to it. Of course, some people called me an idiot and stuff like that. So that's the world of Twitter. Let me put it up on the screen here and get your thoughts on this. Let me make sure the audio is down. I'll go forward.
Make that a little bigger. There we go.
Is that better?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So you will see right over the middle here, it will be, I think it's Dante Penn. Oh, no, it's Velus Jones. See number 12, right where it says 3rd and 10? He's going to go across the middle, and right there, he's open. Now, the pass rush is coming right now. Right when you see Whitehair lose his man, number 84, and there's a sack. I thought, given the ferocious nature of this Eagles pass rush, that it would have been a good decision for him to hit Velus wide open over the middle, and with his speed, he probably could have accumulated some.
With more experience, and now he sees that today. Boom, get it out of your hand right now.
Right.
But don't forget now that linebacker was coming in late.
Yep.
Or defensive back. He's in between. He's there. See now.
Yeah.
Right when you want to get rid of the ball, he's right in between.
Yes.
Where Velus is and the ball's got to go.
Yeah.
So you could be, where it's easy to criticize.
Sure.
He's in the side, line of vision, and he could be thinking, I'm going to throw a pick six here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm always looking for that because I know that the offensive line needs tremendous help, but I think the quarterback can always do something to help those linemen, and that primarily is get rid of the damn ball. Even if you're throwing it at somebody's feet because of the pass rush, you avoid the sack and you just lose it down. So
I'll tell you, the guy who disappointed me on the line yesterday was Whitehair, and Hargrave had his way with him.
Yeah.
I thought that was his worst game all year.
Mm.
Now, Hargrave is going to make you look bad.
Mm-hmm.
Guy's a damn good player, but still, so now it becomes, at the price he's getting paid, I think he's going into the final year of his contract. Maybe he's got 2 years left.
Mm-hmm.
Do you try to upgrade there somewhere else with somebody like a J. Tyree Carter? And we'll get to Leatherwood. I don't think Leatherwood's a tackle, and he proved it again yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he'd be better off when he's got somebody on each side of him at guard. At least before you throw him in the wastebasket, you got to try him at guard, in my opinion. And that's probably not going to be until you get into camp next year.
Yeah.
And then part of the off-season program.
Yeah. Greg, I was thinking about you yesterday after watching that performance from the offensive line. And I had to remind myself, this is a tremendous defensive front that the Bears were playing. But, I've been with you that maybe it's appropriate for the Bears during the offseason to acquire one starting quality offensive lineman and then add more developmental type players. But after yesterday's performance, I was saying maybe we need more than one. Maybe we need 2 or 3.
Well, you might need 2, but number one, you're going to get Patrick back, and I know there's people who don't like Patrick. I'm going on what I saw from a year ago, and it's up to the coaching staff and the front office for them to make a decision. But they gave the guy some money, and I think you're going to see him as the starting center.
Mm-hmm.
In all honesty, Mustyverse hasn't played that bad the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But he is what he is. He's a backup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. He's holding the fort. You got to have better. My opinion is Braxton Jones is going to be damn good. I've been saying it all year. They don't have a right tackle right now.
Mm-hmm.
Riley Reif's going to be 34 next year or something like that.
I think so.
Yeah. Leatherwood showed yesterday he cannot play right tackle. The same thing that happened to him with the Raiders last year was happened to him yesterday. And you didn't see it, and we're going to look at some clips in a little while. You didn't see that when he played on the left side. Now, I know I'm beating a dead horse, but I keep repeating it, but I just don't think he's capable of playing on the right side. And I don't even care if it's at right guard.
Mm-hmm.
He just, for some reason, the footwork gets all fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse my French, but when he's playing on the right side, he doesn't look nearly as good. I think he's, try him at left guard. And if he can't play left guard, throw him out.
Yep. All right. Well, let's take a look at some Leatherwood tape. But first, I want to play Eberflus's reaction to Leatherwood's play yesterday. This is about 20 seconds long.
I thought he got some good reps in there. I thought he had some good moments in there, going against some good pass rushers. So I think he learned some, in there as well. He had some adversity. So that's always going to happen when you play some good rushers, and he's just got to build upon that and learn from that experience.
Keep the rotation going too.
We'll see. We'll see as it goes. We got some guys coming back. We'll see what happens as we go.
Perhaps the most diplomatic coach in the history of Chicago Bears.
He's not going to throw anybody. I'll tell you something though. Did you catch what he did yesterday?
Which
he threw coaches under the bus.
Yeah. He did. That's right.
He goes, well, sometimes not the player's fault. It might be the coach's fault. And he didn't mention any names.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. And I think part of it was, without mentioning names, but they were talking about the busted assignment that Jaquan Brisker had.
Mm-hmm.
He was on a safety blitz and he came in the wrong hole.
Yeah.
And then the way he answered that, well, sometimes as a player, the player's got to be aware of what he's supposed to be doing, down and distance, everything else. He goes, but he's got to be coached right too.
Indeed. Donald says he's worried that we may not have a right guard now, and Eberflus did offer basically the same update he did yesterday. Things are encouraging. So
you might not have a right guard the rest of the season. Who knows? I mean, he might be fine. He might be practicing Wednesday. It depends what the thing is. He might have had a stinger or something. It was weird because he really didn't. I mean, he was making contact,
right?
And then, something happened in his neck or his shoulder or something. But you couldn't, by looking at it, and I've looked at the play a number of times. I can't tell you what it was.
Yeah. Now, this is a player who has had a history of back issues, and so maybe.
Yeah, but this was up in the neck.
Well, the back, the neck, the spinal cord. I mean, the left bone connected to the right bone, kind of thing. I don't know. But here's the interesting thing is that he was going in for more opinions, second and third opinions, and so that tells me that perhaps things are good, but he wants to absolutely make sure before making a decision.
It could be too that the Bears medical staff, they've got a couple specialists that are connected with their doctors that are specialists in certain areas. And they'll and the only reason I know this is because I go to the same group of doctors.
Yeah.
And they are so fine-tuned in that. If you got a knee problem, the knee specialist looks at you. If you got an elbow problem, they got an elbow guy that looks at you. And they're all within the same group, but they specialize in certain things. So they're going to have a guy who's, if this is in the neck or in that area up there, they're going to have a specialist who looks in that, works in that area, look at it, and then give his opinion.
All right. We've got some clips of Leatherwood's action from yesterday. Let me bring up the first one here. This is him having some issues, perhaps, with the speed rusher on the outside, who is Patrick Johnson. Oops, where'd it go? There it is.
Well, number one, as we talked off the air, and by the way, I'm getting some feedback on this where, what I'm saying is repeating in my ears.
Let me take care of that. Hold on just a second. Let me do this and this. The audio quality is better now, at least from an echo standpoint, correct?
Well, I don't know. I'm not talking. Okay. Yeah, it's gone.
Okay, great.
Okay. So
take it away.
He's lined up in a what we call a wide 9, and he's got to be able to step out laterally, and now his right foot, look at his right foot's in the air and he's coming back, and he gets his shoulders turned right away. And when you turn your shoulders like that, you're dead in the water. Okay. So, and he can't move out quick enough laterally because of the steps he's taking. He's got to adjust his steps for that type of rusher. So, if the guy who's playing in at, say, a 7 technique, then his steps were a little bit better, but the guy's at a 9, so he's got to make an adjustment, and he doesn't get his hands on the guy, and it just gets beat. Going back to what Flus said, boy, he was being diplomatic because the guy stunk yesterday. I mean, come on, let's be fair. They had to get him out of the game because he would have got somebody killed.
That is funny. It does almost seem like he trips after right here. See, it's almost like he clicked his heels.
Well, yeah, but that's part of your footwork. Okay. Although you can't let your feet do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Jeez, it's almost comical.
It starts with not having the right footwork to stop a wide 9 rush. And like I say, you can't sit up there and turn your shoulders like that, and that because you've already lost the battle.
Right.
Doing that.
While we're here, Greg, look at number 70 at the bookend here, Braxton Jones. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears that he does everything textbook perfectly here as I roll it. slides over perfectly. The back is straight as you've taught me, and it just stays in between him and the quarterback. It's just super job by Braxton Jones.
There's two things on Braxton in that
Okay.
I would have corrected. If you want to go back to the beginning. See how low his hands are?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
He's got to get his hand up a little higher so he can punch quicker.
Yeah.
And that's about it. I mean, the other thing is it'll come in the off season. Mm-hmm. He has got to get stronger in the lower body. Mm-hmm. He doesn't necessarily have to get bigger. He just got to get stronger so he can anchor better. Mm-hmm. And that'll come. I mean, don't forget this kid went to Southern Utah. So the weight program he was in at Southern Utah isn't anywhere close to the weight program he's going to have here. And you give him one good off season here, and he'll probably improve his lower body strength by 15-20%, and that's going to take care of his problem with anchoring.
All right, now let's go to our second clip, which is Leatherwood up against Hassan Riddick, the speed rusher. And
there's two things wrong with that.
Okay,
let's play it one more time.
Here it comes.
First of all, he gets his shoulders turned. His footwork is awful, but because he can't move quick enough laterally, look at his back. Mm-hmm. He's not bending at the knees. He's bending at the waist. He's lunging, and you lose the guy.
Here it comes again. Now you
got a wide view of that where you got Braxton in there just to see what he's
unfortunately doing? Not. No. Only the broadcast copy here. There's Braxton. But yeah, NFL.
He's Braxton Jones is I don't care what round he went in. He's an elite athlete. The numbers say that. But this guy cannot play tackle. Yeah. Or put it this way, he can't play right tackle. And you got to play him inside. Hey, he was a waiver acquisition, but you did pick up his contract.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you're going to be on the hook for the rest of the contract. So if you're going to try to save, and it's not that it's huge, but if you're going to try to save that, I think you got to try him inside. They may have practiced him inside some, but I think that his chance to survive is going to be as a guard, not as a tackle.
Yeah. And I think, people need to remember, because I heard it so many times, it was becoming irritating. Why don't we see more Leatherwood? Why don't we see more Leatherwood?
Well, you did, and you saw why.
Exactly. The coaching staff has been seeing a lot more Leatherwood in practice, and that's why they're giving him little morsels of playing time to see.
Well, you had last week, played a few plays last week, and we showed a couple clips. But some of the stuff that we saw, even though he didn't get beat last week,
right?
Remember, go back. I was saying, look at how he's doing this, and he's bent at the waist instead of keeping his back straight. See, I hate waist benders. In my opinion, and this is the way I've been taught going back 40 years now, is that you got to keep your back straight. You got to bend your knees. If you can't bend your knees, you can't play in this league. Mm-hmm. Now there are some exceptions, and they get by, but they don't stick around for a long time. I mean, the key. I don't care what sport it is, basketball or whatever. You watch the good players, the good defensive players in basketball. They're all knee benders.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, and you've got to be able to do that, and that way it helps you with your balance and distributing your weight, keeping your back straight. Some of the best there was, remember a tackle? Now, this goes way back. He was an all-pro tackle from Denver. His name was Zimmerman. Played in the USFL. He's from the University of Oregon. Mm-hmm. And that guy was probably the best knee bender I ever saw. I mean, he was like sitting all the time. And you'll see when you're watching one-on-one drills, you hear the line coach yell out, sit. And that means, keep your back straight, get your ass down, bend your knees, because now you've created some leverage where it's your lower body comes into play and you're able to stop the bull rush or the power from your opponent.
Interesting. All right. I wanted to include this play, not because it was Leatherwood's fault for the sack here, but I wanted to ask you if Cole Kmet should have gotten some help here because he's one-on-one with the speed rusher while Leatherwood.
He's got nobody to help him. And as we talked off there, when you showed the tight copy of this right here,
Right.
is, and now this is at least the fourth time I've seen this year. Mm-hmm. And it's been with Larry Borum. It's been with Riley Reef a couple of weeks ago. And now on this play here, where the right tackle, so when the protection they're calling, the right tackle is blocking to the inside.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now there's been times when there's been no tight end there. And then that wide rusher's coming free. So, and the quarterback's gotten killed. So here they kept in the tight end. Cole Kmet did not do a good enough job. He needs to, work with the lineman a little bit on learning how to pass pro, because he's strong enough and he's big enough to take on, a rusher like Philly had right there. And he's athletic enough. Just got to do it right. He's got to position himself. He stopped his feet. Play it back again.
Sure.
Right there, he kind of stops his feet instead of moving laterally, and then he turns his shoulders and gets beat because he gets turned. Mm-hmm. You got to get in front. You got to stay in front of the guy. Mm-hmm. But what they have in their protection scheme that has the tackle blocking down to the inside, mm-hmm. and they all are. So it's what the design is. If you look at, because you look at the guard's blocking inside,
right?
So it's just the way that designed. I don't like that particular design.
Yeah, you got four guys on two pass rushers right there.
Right.
And as
well, actually, you got four guys on two, 4 on 2. You're right.
You got Whitehair, Mustafa, the right guard Schofield, and you've got poor Leatherwood looking for somebody to block. Well, Cole Kmet is out there on an island. Now, Berlissimo says something similar to what I said pre-show. Greg, he says that's called protection left. That's on the center or quarterback. Everyone is going left, and so that's my question for you: is this something that Fields or Mustafa should have adjusted at the line of scrimmage?
Right. It's within the protection scheme, mm-hmm. and so you see that lineup like that. Somebody's got to change the protection.
All right.
But I just don't like, because I said, fourth time I've seen it this year, where I've come away and say, what the fuck? Why is that right tackle blocking to the inside and leaving the outside free?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nomad, let's see if I have that. He says he's played some tackle in his days. He says he doesn't buy Leatherwood, can't play right tackle. He's just got to rep left side techniques out of his muscle memory.
But this is his second season,
right,
playing right tackle. Okay, he played left tackle most of his year. He might have played even some guard at Alabama. I don't remember, but I know he's left tackle at the end, and he was a pretty good one. I mean, that's why he got drafted in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we've talked about this before. Everything gets reversed when he goes over to the right side. Instead of his, on the left side, his left foot's back, and is usually moving to his left, and then recovers back to his right. The right side, his right foot is back, and he's got to set up going wide right, and then then he pushes off the right foot to come back to the inside, to take on a counter stunt or whatever. And there's some people that just can't do it for whatever reason. They got to play one side or the other. They can't play both, which tells you if he's not going to be a starter, you might not want him as a backup because he's going to get somebody killed.
Yeah.
So unless he can play guard,
he
might be a total wash. And that was that. The only thing on the Bears on that is they used a waiver claim on him. So it's no big deal. It's like, hey, he cost some money because you picked up his contract, but is what it is.
Ravi says, what if you switch Braxton Jones and Leatherwood for a game? And I would only say, yeah, just if you're going to do that, don't have Justin Fields anywhere near the football.
No,
stadium.
why would you take? In fact, I heard, I think it was David Kaplan. I love David, so I'm not trying to pick on him, but he's going, they got to do is get a left tackle in free agency and move Braxton Jones under right tackle. Okay. Did you look at what the left tackles are in free agency next year?
Mm-hmm.
How about Peters? There's like 3 names or 4 names, and none of them can play anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and Braxton Jones, that's why you send guys out to scout.
Yeah.
That is your prototypical left tackle. When you look at the athleticism and the length and stuff, he's just got to get a little stronger in the lower body.
Mm-hmm.
And shit, he's a 22, 23-year-old rookie.
That's right.
There's a ton of upside with that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But now you look at the tackles on the right side that are available. You got McGlinchey, you've got Conklin with the Browns, you've got Fant with the Jets, who's been hurt a little bit this year. Conklin, I think, is going to be 29 next year. McGlinchey, 28. Fant will be 30. And you can sign a 30-year-old. I don't worry about signing a 30-year-old offensive lineman. I don't know if I want to sign a 30-year-old defensive lineman and give him $20 million when I'm trying to rebuild a defense. And that's the decision that Ryan Poles will make when it comes to Hargrave, because it's going to cost him $20 million to get that guy.
Indeed. All right, I've got one more here, and it reminds me last week when we were preparing for last week's show, I picked a handful of Raiders clips, and I was like literally laughing out loud because he was just stumbling all over the place, and he did the same thing on this play. It's like, is he swimming with the left hand? What's going on here?
Handwork was atrocious on that.
Look at how low they are.
Plus he's not setting up wide enough.
Mm-hmm.
His footwork is bad. So, his lateral steps right at the snap are bad. And then his handwork is just atrocious there.
Oh, geez. It's not good. It is not good. I think this was one of his last plays. I don't think he did a snap in the second half at all. I thought they saw enough in the first half, and they put Riley Reef in there, who I thought had a really solid game.
No, Riley's played good. You can't take it away. The guy's a pro, and the guy's played a lot of football.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Jordan says that it's a bad choice to use the outside hand as a single punch, which is what he does sort of there, I guess.
Well, yeah, but you got to be in position to punch.
Mm.
And first of all, he's giving ground right off the bat instead of going more laterally against that. And he's doing that every time. That's something that you got to work on during practice, during the week. You're looking at the alignment of the defense and how wide they are. You got to work on that.
Yeah. So Bellissimo's point is that he thinks the bigger issue is his hands too low, too slow, no punch, no reset. It's his feet that aren't the worst part. Not that he's giving him a passing grade on his feet. What do you think about Bellissimo's comment?
Well, I don't totally agree. His handwork on that last play was awful, but you gotta set properly and stay as square as you can to the line of scrimmage. When you start turning like this, now you're already giving up the edge.
Okay.
And you gave the advantage to your opponent.
Yeah.
By turning. So you got to stay like this and try to get in front of them.
Yeah.
If you go back and you look at like Braxton keeps getting better, you don't see him turning like that. You see him turn some because they have to, but they try to stay as square as they can.
Yeah.
But when you turn early like he does, it's all over. He's beat right then.
Right. J2K, I like his comment here. He said Jason Peters might have said it best. Offensive tackle is easy. Get to your spot and let the guy come to you, which is kind of a simple explanation for the position, but there's a lot of truth to that, isn't there?
Yeah, no. Well, he's pretty damn good. And for a guy as big as he was, and we've talked about this before, he was a tight end in college at the University of Arkansas. He never played offensive line tackle until he got to the Buffalo Bills as an undrafted free agent.
Okay.
He was a 310-pound tight end at Arkansas.
Yeah. Overall, Braxton Jones did a great job. I wish I would have pulled this clip. He was interviewed in the press in the locker room afterwards, and he very eloquently talked about where he had some struggles with stunts on some plays. He said one time it was Cody's fault, one time it was my fault, and he just explained it really well. But my question to you is, overall, though, the offensive line for the Bears had trouble with the Eagles stunts. It was
no, they did. The Eagles, they got the number one. Their personnel is great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even their backups are good. Their backups are better than the Bears got along the defensive line.
Yeah.
But on top of that, they stunt the hell out of people. And when you got young linemen, it makes it difficult. You get good playing against that stuff. So now Braxton learns from the mistakes he made yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a smart kid. You hear him. He's a well-spoken kid. He knows when he makes a mistake and he sees it. And you get into the game the next week and somebody tries to stunt and you go, okay, I've seen this, you know how to react to it because you've seen it before, but you got to be prepared.
Yep. And Chubbs is 100% right. Every offensive line has had troubles with the Eagles this year. That's why they're leading the league as a unit in sacks with just their front four. You're absolutely right, Chubbs. And to your other point or question, Chubbs, yes, there were some plays where Leatherwood did well. I did not pull that because we wanted to construct where are the issues with his play. But for the most part, the plays that he did really well are all run plays. The guy can run block. Leatherwood can run block really, really well.
Well, he's got some ass to him and he's got some power to him. That's why I think he's an inside player. Yeah. When you're an inside player, then you don't have to worry about the wide. You got somebody next to you. You got a center next to you. You got a tackle next to you.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can pass them off. You're in a more confined space.
Yeah. Did you see the Washington game last night?
Just some of it that I watched today because I wanted to see how Payne played.
Yeah, which is exactly the question I was going to ask you. So I thought he played relatively well. There are some.
I was kind of disappointed, to be honest with you. I didn't think. I mean, the eight of plays. I've seen him better.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And right now, after I watched that game, and then I went back and I watched some Denver now. Draymond Jones is hurt now. He's on IR. He hurt his hip last week.
Mm-hmm.
And he plays like in their base defense at Denver. He's really like a 5. But when they're in the sub, he's more of a 3. And he's very quick. He can run really well. He's going to be one of these guys in the discussion to sign. Assuming that hip is all right. They said it's about a 4-week injury, but it won't get him back because of when he was placed on IR. He's done because they're not going to be in the playoffs. Price-wise, he was a 3rd-round pick coming out, so he's not making that much money.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at dollars and cents, he's probably going to be the most affordable guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he had, before he got hurt last week against Kansas City, he had 6.5 sacks, had 5.5 last year. He had 6.5 the year before. He's in that, he probably would have had 7.5, maybe 8 on the year if he was able to play those last 4 games, which for an inside guy is pretty good. So, I mean, he's going to be one of the guys that they're going to be, I would assume that they're going to be looking at in free agency.
Interesting.
The top 3 and Hargrave, Payne, and Draymond Jones, in my opinion, are the top 3.
Yeah, I'd be happy with any one of those guys. And I know that they might be in a position to have to pay more in order to acquire somebody, but the salary cap is going to go up and probably going to go up every year for the foreseeable future. So
it's funny because there hadn't been any leaks. They just had the December meetings down in Dallas last week.
Right.
They always give the cap managers are at that December meeting. And they always give them an amount that we think the cap's going to be around X amount of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you can start your planning. You don't get that real figure until late February, early March. But they can get within $1.5 to $2 million right now of where they're going to be. Yeah. I'm really surprised that nothing's leaked out.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. I am shocked.
Because it almost always does.
Yeah.
If you go back to those meetings, you always see, well, cap's going to be flat next year, or whatever. They're going to get $10 million next year. Nothing came out of that meeting.
Well, I'm sure Mike Florio is listening right now, and he'll come up with some bogus response to that. Just kidding, Mike Florio. By the way, did you hear the breaking news? It appears that Jalen Hurts will not play Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys because he injured his shoulder on that when Travis Gibson, according to Adam Schefter, drove him into the ground late in the third quarter. So
he did. I thought he could have separated his shoulder on that one. To tell you the truth.
Well,
and it was a clean hit. There's nothing wrong with the hit.
Yeah.
But that was really the same type of play where Justin separated his shoulder.
Yeah, interesting.
You come down, you hit with your shoulder first, and you got that weight on there, and then the bone, the clavicle pops away from what's the other bone?
I can only think of it if I sing the song, so let's skip that.
I know this is the clavicle right here.
There you go.
And I've had a separated shoulder. I've had 3 surgeries for them.
Jeez. Greg, I mean, how many surgeries have you had? Oh,
God. You really want to know?
Yes, please.
I bet you I've had 15.
Holy moly. Jeepers creepers.
Orthopedic surgeries, 5 knees, 3 shoulders. Now, one is like, in 1971, the first time I separated my shoulder, they put a pin in.
Okay.
So the pin was in 6-8 weeks, and then I had to take the pin out. Technically, that's the surgery because they made an incision, did it under a local, but made an incision and pulled out the pin. I didn't have to go out, but technically that's a surgery. So that's the second. And then I separated it again in 76, I think it was. And then they did what they call a resection. They don't do resections anymore. What they do is they cut off the tip of your clavicle. And so it's like permanently separated. And then there's a wire in there. And it didn't, it's my right arm. It doesn't hurt my range of motion at all. And I've never heard it again. And I played football 6 years after that. There's a tiny little bit of arthritis, but, they told me back then, that's 50 years ago, they told me I'd probably have a little arthritis. But like I said, I got full range of motion. So
good for you. Good for you, man. Oh man, I can't.
I've had both thumbs done, right thumb twice, left thumb once. My Achilles.
Oh wow, that's right. When I first met you, you were hobbling around after
the Achilles. I did. I was sitting where I'm sitting here now. Somebody came to the front door and dog was going crazy, and I popped up out of this chair to go to the stop the dog, and my Achilles popped.
Never made it to the door, huh?
No, I made it to the door, and I opened the door, and it's the mailman, and I go, and he just looked at my face, and I go, I know I just popped my Achilles. I knew what I did.
Chris wants to know how far up the chain did you go playing football?
Well, I played in like minor league football for 8 years after I got out of college.
And then you went into scouting ranks, right?
Yeah, the last year I was playing football, I was working part-time for Buffalo.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. All right. want to get your thoughts on this defensive performance yesterday. Eberflus said, "I'm actually proud of the way the defense has played the last 2 weeks," and I gotta admit that this defense does look better than the defense we saw for that period of time where they were just giving up.
I gotta say one thing. First of all, Philly threw for 300 and some odd yards. I thought secondary played pretty damn good.
How about it?
I mean, there was 3 deep throws by Hurts. Excuse me. Outrageous throws, because every single time the coverage was very good. You can't blame the defensive back. Those were perfect passes.
Yep, indeed. Sophisticated Thoughts wants to know your assessment of Kyler Gordon's performance yesterday.
I think he's improving. He's a young kid. He came out a year early. He's improving every week. He's getting confidence. The guy that is impressing me is Jalen Jones.
Yes.
The other rookie. And we talked a little bit about him last week. And he's taken over that spot from Kendall Vildor. I don't know if Vildor was able to play or not. I don't even think he did play yesterday. So he still may be hurt. But that kid's got a future.
Yes, he does. He really does. And I think you provided some backstory last week. You said that there were some issues, perhaps.
I don't know exactly what the issues were, but there was something that happened at Ole Miss. He's a little bit older. He's a 25-year-old rookie. Might have been 24, at the beginning of the season. He's 25 now. But he ran 4.41, got a 35.5, 36-inch vertical. He ran a sub 7 second 3-cone. Everything was really good. He's 5'10 3/4. He's got 31.5-inch arms. So he's got, he's not the tallest guy in the world, but he's got length, the arm length to make up for it. He did 18 reps, which is excellent for a defensive back. So he's got some strength, and he'll hit you. I think they stole one there.
Yeah. And the second part of Sophisticated's question was something that we addressed earlier in the show, and that was Brisker blitzing out of the wrong gap. That could have been an Allen Williams bad call, or it could have been Brisker. But Greg said that given what Eberflus said yesterday, maybe we can speculate that Williams made the bad call.
No, I think he was saying it on the position coach.
Okay, gotcha.
Not the coordinator, the whoever is the safety coach.
All right. Let's get to some comments here. I like what Henneman said earlier. He says he thinks that we drafted Kyle Long specifically because of Ndamukong Suh. He was a real force when he came into the league. He skews towards dirty, but if he's on your team, you like him. Football is a tough sport. Yeah, I agree with Michael here. If Suh were playing for the Bears during his prime, I would forgive his offenses. That's the kind of fan.
I remember when he was coming out of Nebraska, he was a bitch. And Eugene Parker was his agent. Eugene was, God rest his soul, was very, very, very close friend, as is his son Brandon. And did they draft Long? I can't say that. What was interesting is Long was a 25-year-old rookie. It was the 2013 draft. I was working for Philly at the time as a consultant. That's the year they hired Chip Kelly, who came from Oregon. And Kelly wanted no part of him, part of Long. And so there was obviously something that went on at Oregon. Now, Kyle Long was, he had some issues when he was younger.
Yes.
And he originally went to college on a baseball scholarship, not to play football. He was a pitcher. And, I had some issues with drugs and some other things. And then, he was an all-state football player and an all-state baseball player. And then he switched back to football, went to a JC, and then ended up at Oregon. But he was a little bit older by the time he got out of Oregon. But Chip Kelly, he never told the whole scouting department what the issue was. I'm sure Howie knew what it was, but there was no way that we were going to take him. In fact, that draft, the guy that lines up, Lane, who lines up at right tackle for the Eagles, was the Eagles' first pick that draft.
Oh, okay. Forgot his name, but nonetheless, um, let's get some more questions here. Jordan just posted this one. He says, "What did you make of Jalen Johnson yesterday?" Oh, you just talked about that.
I thought Jalen played really well. First of all, he's covering one of the better receivers in the league, and they had him. If he's on the right side, the left side, whatever, he followed him around. And he's probably going to have Stephon Diggs this week. So it's not like he's getting a week off when he goes against Buffalo. That was a good battle. I mean, the one long play, you can't ask for a better throw than that. Because Jalen had great coverage.
He did.
You know, he had some breakups. I think he had at least 3 breakups in the game. He was kind of beat on the one on the left side that he broke up in the end zone, but he recovered quickly to get it. He's a good player.
Do you like the idea of him being that traveling cornerback who was guarding?
Well, I think they got so much inexperience. There's 3 rookies that started yesterday. Okay, when you count your sub package is all starters, and you do because you're playing against 3 wides. Jones, Gordon, and Brisker are all rookies, true rookies. So you had 2 veterans back there, and that's it.
All right,
and one of the veterans is a backup, Houston Carson,
who always impresses me. Not that he plays flawless football, but this guy, I think on many teams he would be a legit starter. I've always been surprised that he hasn't tested free agency. He's one.
Well, he was a free agent last year. They brought him back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. I guess he did test it, but I'm surprised that he hasn't been given a nice offer, because I think the guy can be a legit starter in this league. He's a great special teams player. Mike Pinnell played well yesterday. Michael wanted to get your thoughts. Is this guy probably going to make the roster next year? Who knows?
Yeah,
right?
look, I think he only played 20 snaps.
I'm surprised, right?
Yeah, 22 snaps, something like that. He makes his presence felt. He is not what you call perfect fit in this scheme. You know, you want more athletic guys, but he's not going to give ground to blockers, so he can hold the point. You know, I think Jones and him are probably the 2 best players. The one guy, what the hell's his name? The holdover from last year, Al Blackson. He'll play 4 or 5 snaps, so you can throw him out. You can see that they're not trusting him because he's just not getting any snaps.
Yeah,
they play with Pinnell, Jones, and what's the other guy's name? Watts.
Yeah. Who I think has been playing fairly well, Armani Watts. He should be considered as a comeback player next season.
They need a go-to inside presence that they don't have.
Indeed, yes. Will help the outside guys too if you got that inside
now,
pressure.
whether that's in free agency or you draft Carter and then say, well, I got to get an edge guy. Well, you know, then I would say they looking at what's available in the draft versus what's available in free agency, I don't see the edge position in free agency being that strong. So if it's me, I'm trying to sign some interior guys, and then I try to draft the edge guy.
Yeah, there's some interesting. Well, we'll talk more about those candidates for in the draft in future shows. Mr. Shorty wants to know how one goes about becoming a scout.
Yeah, we could talk a whole day.
Maybe we devote a show to that topic.
No, I mean, I myself, I've been involved in football. I started playing when I was 8. I stopped playing when I was 31. So what's that? 23 years I played. And then went right into scouting. But I had help in that when I was playing minor league football, one of my coaches was working back then. There was a combine. So this goes back to the late 70s, early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
There was a combine called Quadra that was San Francisco, Dallas, Buffalo, and Seattle. And, back then you didn't have videotape. We carried it. Did I show you my old 16 millimeter projector when you were over here?
I did. I picked it up, and I was like, "You walked how many miles with this thing?"
Yeah, you carry that thing around from school to school, and you watch 16 millimeter tape and film, not tape. And you had to have a splice machine with you too, in your thing, because when the tape broke or the film broke, you had to splice it and put it back together.
Exactly.
So, but anyway, what they did to supplement the scouts on the road is they hired part-time guys to grade film. And the coach I was playing for was doing this for the Bills. And, we were talking, and I said, I can do that, and so he got me in touch with Bruce Nicholas, who's no longer in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce was the second in command of the Bills scouting department. Back then, Norm Powell was the director of player personnel, and Chuck Knox was the head coach. So he got me in touch with Bruce, and Bruce introduced me to Norm, and Norm became like a father figure to me then, and my mentor. But they gave me some tape to watch and say, write these guys up. Tell me what you see. And so I did. It was like 3 guys. And I remember it was USC, and it was some offensive linemen on USC. And Norm says, Norm used to smoke these big Cuban cigars that were about this long. He talked like this. Gabriel, that ain't too fucking bad. And so he said, yeah, we'll do you something. $5 an hour.
That's
1981. It was 1981. And I was a stockbroker at the time for, remember Dean Witter that doesn't exist anymore? Used to,
Sure, yeah.
Dean Witter Reynolds.
Yes.
I was a stockbroker for Dean Witter, quit my job. And I had just gotten married.
Wow.
And
oh my goodness.
I was working full-time, part-time for $5 an hour.
Mm.
And then, the next year they gave me more money and started sending me on the road. And then, I was doing that 2.5 years. And then I finally got a full-time job. But back then they worked the hell out of you. Mm-hmm. And they still try to now. That's what they do in football, is they want to see if you can grind. And and they work you to death.
Yeah.
And not bitch about it. And because it's long hours, coaches, a lot of them were ex-coaches, and coaches work forever during the season. So that's what they want to see. They want to see if you can put up with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. So that's how I got involved. But I knew I knew I was making some money as a broker, but I didn't like it.
Yeah, you got to do what you love.
And it was, and my mind was always on football, and I was playing football, and what I hated about being a broker is you had to pick up the damn phone and call people, and make cold calls and that type of thing, and sell, and I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can make a lot of money, but I don't like it. In fact, I tell you, after I stopped working for the Bears, I had a guy who I worked with back at Dean Witter years and years ago. He, he's making a fortune now. He wanted me to reinstate my license because of all the connections I got.
Wow.
Now in the league, and come and work for him. He lives in South Carolina now, and come and work with him. And all I'd have to do is introduce him to people.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do that. It's just something about it that selling things just doesn't sit with me.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. I'm the same way. I don't want any part of that world. Good for people who can do that, and the good ones make a hell of a lot of money, and you probably would have made a hell of a lot of money. But I'm so glad you made sure.
My stepson who was actually a broker. He could sell you anything. He could sell you the sun in Florida.
You hear that, Cliff Victoria? Cliff Victoria is one of our resident Florida fans here. He's in the real estate business,
or he could sell you sand in the desert. I mean, he's good at it.
Yeah,
I can't do it.
Yeah, there's Cliff saying he started out in real estate making 100 cold calls a day.
God love you, man, because I hated that. You know why? Because the first person calls up and says, I want to talk to you, and hangs up the phone.
Yeah.
And I take it personal.
Yeah, I'm sort of the same way.
And it's like, fuck this. I don't need this shit.
Exactly. I'll go watch some film. All right, let's get a couple more football questions here. Are you worried about Mr. Kairos Santos? He's missed as many extra points.
He's missed 3 extra points. Yeah, it's 2 games in a row now. I think he's missed one, isn't it?
Yeah. See,
I think it's cause for concern.
Yeah, me too. What bothers me is that it seems like Soldier Field is playing tricks with him, because he was excellent in Soldier Field last year, but starting with that first game against the 49ers and that rain deluge when he missed 2 extra points.
Oh, so he missed 4. That's right. He missed those 2, and I throw those out the window.
Yeah,
but he's great. He doesn't miss field goals. He's only missed 1 this year, I think, and that was from a gazillion yards out.
Yeah.
I think the wind. Did you go to the game?
Which one? This
yesterday?
One? No, I did not.
Okay, I think the wind. It said there was only like a 5-mile-an-hour wind or 10-mile-an-hour wind, but I think it was playing
swirling.
Yeah, because of like the one kick by the Eagles that went off the upright.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It can play games with you because it does swirl.
Yeah.
And you really got to get used to it. But and that kick was in the same direction where he missed it, and it went to the right. In fact, when they show the Eagles kick and they have the head-on shot, the end zone shot, the ball went like straight and it made a right turn.
Yes,
and it was like really weird. So, yeah, cause for concern for Cairo. But I think at this point, you don't do anything about it. You bring in competition next year at camp, and let him know that he's got to compete for the job.
Yeah, and Chubbs is right. He has missed 5 extra points this year.
Oh, is it 5?
4 of them at Soldier Field and 1 on the road. So I'm with you 100% there, Greg. I think next year you bring in camp competition. I think that there's a dead cap hit of about $1.5 million if he does not make the team next season, and that's pocket change for a team loaded with money.
Well, they can give it to me. I'll take it.
Yeah, come on.
You're just going to throw it around. What the hell?
Let's see if I got another one here before we pull the plug on this one. Oh, Jeremy wants to know, Greg, is Anderson or Carter worth the 2nd overall pick, or would you trade back? That's the key question there.
I wrote about it a couple of weeks ago. First of all, you can't make players be worth more than they are.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to line up the players best to worst. And this guy's the number 1 player. This guy's the number 2 player. And you can't change what's there in a given year. Whether they're better or worse than the year before or 2 years ago, that remains to be seen. This is the deck of cards you're playing with this year. Mm-hmm. So when you say, are they worth it? Well, versus who? Because if you answer yourself a couple things. First of all, does somebody want to trade up? Meaning, are the quarterbacks worthy of somebody trading up to get them?
Right.
Okay. At this time of the year, who the hell knows? Because, we could say, the kid the Jets took a couple of years ago, number 2, in December 2 years ago, was he being talked about as the second pick in the draft?
Oh,
Was Trey Lance being talked about as the third pick in the draft? He had played one game that no, but they, the coaches started getting involved at the end of January, and then you start talking about needs, and you lose people in free agency, and all this, and all of a sudden, you got to have somebody. So you can sit here and play fantasy football. And you can say, "Oh yeah, we're going to trade." Like I must have seen 10 things in the last 2 days, between Twitter or something and prospective trades and all this. And to me, it's just fantasy football, because until, first of all, we don't know where we're picking. Right today, we're picking 2, and probably that's where they're going to be picking is 2, because I have a feeling they're not going to win another game. There's just too many guys hurt.
Yeah.
I thought, in all honesty, they had a chance yesterday. I thought Philly might be before the game even started. I thought this is the trap game for Philly.
Yeah.
Because they got to play a divisional game next week. And so they could be a little flat on this one, and they were.
Yep.
But Buffalo is fighting for. They want that home field advantage. They don't want to have to go to Kansas City in the playoffs. So Buffalo's not going to be sitting flat next week, I don't think, anyway. And if it's 8 degrees, it isn't going to bother them. Shit, they play in the snow. They don't care.
Indeed.
And so, Detroit's playing real strong. You got to play that game in Detroit, so it's going to be, tough, being it's on their field. So I don't see the only game that I think they might have a chance is Minnesota, because Minnesota might not play anybody.
That is true.
Because the game will be totally meaningless to them.
That is true.
Unless they have to have it for a certain seating, and by that time it may already be locked up.
Go ahead, please.
But anyway, so until you find out not only where are the Bears picking, but the teams that have a quarterback need. Okay, now somebody said, well, Seattle. Well, Seattle's going to be, they got Denver's pick. They're going to be picking like right after the Bears. Right now, they're third. Okay, and because of the strength of schedule they have. So why would they trade up? They're not, they're not going to be like Pace trying to go from 3 to 2.
I don't think so.
or whatever. Okay, then you got, Houston may or may not take a quarterback at 1 because they got another number 1 that right now I think is, if you go on today's record, it's like at 12. Well, you could take the best player at 1. You could take Carter, you could take Anderson or whatever. And then you can use that second pick and move up to get one of the quarterbacks, or you sit and you wait. Because, who are the best young quarterbacks in the league right now? Well, you could say Patrick Mahomes. Where'd he go? 10.
10.
Okay. Josh Allen, 7. Justin Herbert, 6. Watson, before he got his fetish. I think he went 12.
Well, yeah, it was 12. Yes.
Fields 11 or 12. So why do I got to trade up to 2? Right? When you can sit and be patient.
Right. Well, that's the deal, though, Greg, is that some of these guys, like the 49ers, weren't patient because Trey probably would have fallen because other guys, Mitch Trubisky probably would not have been selected second overall. Some of these guys fall in love with a pick, and you know this better than me.
Absolutely. And that's what a team like the Bears would hope for.
Yes.
But you can't count on it.
Right.
You know, you can't. And we're sitting here, it's December 19th.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, we get into March. So we got 3 months yet.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be after the combine. You're going to be in the middle of pro days, and you're going to be 5-6 weeks before the draft. Now you're going to start getting a feel for, are those quarterbacks, and you got the top 3. You got the kid from Kentucky, Levis. You got the kid young from Alabama, and you got Stroud from Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, those would be the 3 that they're looking to get. But are those guys worth giving up the farm to get to 2, or giving up the farm to get to 3, or whatever? Because, like I say, I don't think it's a lock that Houston says, I got to take a quarterback at 1, only because, you know, Nick Caserio's the guy making the decision, and Caserio's with New England when they get Tom Brady, and, you know, way back. So, you know, he might say, no, I'm taking the best player. I'll take quarterback. I use that second pick to move up to get my quarterback if I have to.
It's going to be a fascinating process this offseason, and a lot of mind games, a lot of misinformation. I love it when Greg says the lying season has started. I think the lying season has actually expanded to all 12 months out of the year. But somebody just came in with a late question here. I would love for you to field. Hallballs 34 says, when working with such a young team, how do you keep a coaching staff together where you're not bouncing guys year to year? And that is a challenge for Matt Eberflus, is trying to keep this staff intact, because that would really be, you know, you can be critical of any of the position coaches or even the coordinators, but it really is critical for those guys to develop too, and to develop their cohesion. How do you keep this staff together?
Well, if a guy's going to get a promotion from, say, a position coach to coordinator, first of all, it's a huge. He's making over $1 million a year as a
Indeed
coordinator. How are you going to? You can't keep him. You know, you got to let the guy go. Now, you know, some of these guys, not all the guys on the defensive side of the ball, but most of them work with Flus and Indy. So he's had a long relationship with these guys. So, and, you know, you go through and you find out, okay, who was new and on the defensive side, and who was new on the offensive side. Does he like the way those guys have played, or the way those guys have developed? Is he getting what he wants from those coaches? Because just like players, they're going to get reviewed.
Yeah.
And, you know, so he could make, and most coaches get, position coaches get 2 or 3 year contracts. So, you know, you're going to pay them. If you let them go, you're going to pay them for a year or 2, depending on the length of their contract. But if they catch on somewhere else, there's an offset. So what they make somewhere else comes off of what the Bears, you know, get them. And most of these guys end up getting a job somewhere, be it college or another NFL job. So you can't worry about that part. It's all, you know, figured into the money allotment. But I want to go back to one other thing that I didn't finish on the draft. And that is when you talk about trading back, you know, first of all, you got to have teams that are willing to move up. And so you got to find out, okay, who needs the quarterbacks? Which teams? And, you know, the Colts are one, you know, the Seahawks are one, but, you know, they're going to be sitting with the pick right after the Bears. Houston, who has the number 1 pick, going to need a quarterback. And there could be a few more. So then after that, you got to look at, okay, if I'm sitting here at 2, I'm going to get, regardless of if a quarterback goes with the first pick or not, the worst case scenario is I'm going to come out of this with Anderson or Carter. Correct?
Sure.
So,
Absolutely.
okay. So if Houston takes one, I'm taking the other. If they don't take a quarterback, and then I'm taking my pick of the two if they do take a quarterback.
Yeah.
So now the trade down question is, what am I better off with? Carter or Anderson versus who I can get at 9, say.
Right.
And the next pick. What's going to help the team better?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you got, and you look at your board and you say, okay, well, I get that kid from Texas Tech at 9, that edge rusher. And I like him a lot. So, and I'm just, this is hypothetical. So, yeah, I'll make that deal. And then I got the bonus picks coming in
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So those are all parts of what goes on when you're strategically trying to plan these things out.
And the value, as Chubb says here, the value of a generational player. Would you consider either one of those guys, those pass rushers, the DT or the edge rusher, a generational player? Because those are guys that are really, really difficult to bypass, even if you're going to acquire another number one next year and a later number one this year and some bonus picks.
Well, let's talk Anderson first. I don't think he's a Myles Garrett, and I don't think he's a Chase Young.
Okay.
Now, forget Chase Young's gotten hurt since he's been with Washington.
Mm-hmm.
What he was coming out. Both those guys went first overall. First of all, he's not as big as either one of those guys. He's going to be, Anderson they got him listed at 245. He's probably going to play in our league at 250, 255. He's not a power guy like those guys, but he's got a lot of speed and he can come off the edge. And, he's going to be more like a Quinn last year. Okay. I don't think he's even as powerful as Mac was.
Okay.
Mac went fourth when he came out, but he's just, when you look at his play, you don't see that power. I mean, he's really good. I'm not taking it. The Carter's a freak.
Mm-hmm.
And could play either line position, but then part of your discussion is what has more value. And again, free agency will have something to do with this. So if I'm signing some guys to play inside, then I want Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
But if I end up taking some guys outside, then you take Carter. But Carter, I think, could be Chance can be a very dominant inside player. So what's more important? The value of position is the edge guy. But when you look at this team, they need them both. So, I'm not gonna complain no matter who they take. But again, it's if I trade down, this is what I'm getting rid of. I might be getting rid of a perennial Pro Bowl type player for multiple players. And what are we better off at? And you better have a darn good answer to that question before you make that move. And have a feel good for the guys that you think you can get with those other picks.
Yeah. And like you said, and Laz is repeating it, free agency will tell you where they're going to go in this draft. That's typically the way it is. I hate to change the subject here, but this really interesting question popped up, J2K. Greg, do you have any inside thought on who Pep likes more, given the quarterbacks coming out? Maybe a question for another show?
In all honesty, I got to put a call into Pep this week. And the reason being, I don't know if I should say this on here or not, is, the the East-West game is going to have the full NFL coaching staff.
Mhm.
So right now, as it sits right now, if they accept the invitation, it would be Houston and the Bears. And Houston, being the top seed, would have their pick of the quarterbacks. Now, there's some good quarterbacks that haven't committed to any game yet.
Mhm.
And the reason, and the best one will be Levis, because Stroud and Young aren't eligible to play in an all-star game, which I think is the stupidest rule in the world.
Indeed.
Okay, why the league will not let these guys play is beyond me. But I mean, this goes back since before he was even playing, so or scouting rather. But anyway, I want to get Pep's thought on. Hey, Pep, we're going to let you have your pick of the quarterback if you guys, choose to coach in this game. And this is the guy, you could be picking the guy you're coaching next year. So
It's important.
yeah.
Yep.
So I want to get his feeling on that. That's my assignment for the week, and then but I don't like bothering guys during certain times, and like today and tomorrow morning our game plan. So they're getting ready for Saturday's game. So I got to wait for the right time to give them a holler.
There you go. I got you reminded me of the story when I was at the Shrine Bowl game, and I asked Matt Patricia a question. He was coaching one of the teams after the game, and I asked him, "Did you fall in love with a particular player this week?" And he said, "Yes." Long pause, and then he started laughing because, of course, he wasn't going to tell me or any of the reporters in the room who he fell in love with. So that is going to be interesting. It'll be. I wish I was a fly on the wall when you talk to Pep, whether it's this week or next.
Well, no, I just, I all I want to know is that, or if they're interested, and Michael says Pep wants a QB, Lovey wants a running back. Well, guess what? Neither one of them are going to have the say. The say is going to be Nick Caserio, who's the GM.
Mm-hmm.
And some people think, Lovey could be one and done. I cannot see that happening.
Yeah, that's
and I'll tell you why. And I don't want to cross the line here, but they had a coach in there last year, brought him in, one and done.
Yeah.
They elevate Lovey. Both are minority coaches. You cannot do that. That's not fair if you do that 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And first of all, how would he get a coach this year? Who the hell would interview?
Yeah, right.
Saying, I'm only going to get 1 year.
Exactly. It's not good.
When the other guys got saying who's on the roster.
Yeah. Yep. It's not a good look if you do that.
Yeah. So it's a tricky situation.
It really is a tricky situation because if you're going to bring in a quarterback early pick first round, you would like to bring him in with a coaching staff that you've committed the next 3-4 years to, and so that's perhaps the question for Nick over in Texas is, are you ready to make that 2-3 year commitment to Lovey? Because that would really benefit the quarterback. Don't you agree with that?
Yeah, it does from the standpoint that like with Fields, he doesn't have to come in as a rookie and learn one system and then in year 2 learn a second system, which in essence sets you back a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you're redoing, it's a redo of your rookie year.
Yeah. There's debate in the chat room regarding Lovey's future with the Texans. J2K says, I don't see Lovey getting fired. Chubbs on the other hand saying that defense for the Texans was 29th this year. They are 30th, and they won 6 games. So he could see Lovey getting fired. But you got to also account for the lack of talent on both the Bears, Texans, all these teams that are with terrible records. There's usually a reason for it, and it's usually number one, talent.
Yeah, and Lovey's not responsible for the lack of the talent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and so
Yep.
some people think they're not well coached or whatever. You know, people can have all the opinion. I'm not even looking at that. I'm just saying, are you going to fire 2 years in a row a head coach after only 1 year?
That's a great point. And the fact that it's 2 minority coaches when the league is trying really hard to give minority coaches and GMs more opportunities, that would be a horrible look for the Texans and the NFL. Greg, I think we're about ready. We gave them 90 minutes, an extra 30 minutes of program.
Well, we always go at least 90, and shit, you only pay me for 45. What the hell? I mean,
I think I paid you like for 10 minutes. Start sending some money in, folks. You bar flies out there. Start picking up the tab. I love it. We will be back next week. Are the Bears playing Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday.
Christmas
Eve.
Yeah. Why did I think it was Christmas Day? Holy
Christmas
cow.
Day. God, it's going to be really cold Christmas Day.
Oh,
Saturday's cold, but Christmas Day is going to be even colder, and we're going to get a lot of snow on Thursday and Friday.
Oh my goodness. Well,
hell, Buffalo might not even be able to get here.
Well,
they shut down O'Hare, at about 6 inches of snow.
Yeah, well, that might be the best news for the Bears if Buffalo doesn't show up, or at least leave Josh Allen home and make it interesting.
Buffalo never closes down. That airport. I'll tell you what. Now go back all day. I'm saying, there's going to be this torrential snowfall in Buffalo. They're going to have to put the game last week from Saturday night to Sunday. Did you watch any of that game?
Yeah.
It was dry as a bone until 5 minutes were left in the game.
That's right.
It snowed about 3 or 4 inches earlier in the day. It was all gone.
Crazy.
Off the field. People overreacting because it's Buffalo.
Yep.
Indeed. We're going to get 70 inches of snow.
Yeah. Indeed.
That happens every 20 years.
It's annoying. It's annoying as hell. I mean, if you're a meteorologist, boy, you talk about job security. These guys make bad decisions almost every day. And the 10-day weather forecast is just a joke. All right, everybody, we're going to pull the plug. Make sure you check out Bears Country Podcast tonight, starting at 7 p.m. Central. Here is a holiday wish from Greg, and we'll pull the plug on this one. Take care, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody.